Alright, here we go. First stream using the new video card. And honestly, I am just like blown away so far with the performance. It's I mean, I'm almost emotional about it. I'm almost like ready to start crying every time I use it because it's just so better than so much better than what I was using before. You know, my old video card would crash after about 5 minutes of any game or any 3D intensive thing aside from Second Life, and I put up with that for like 2 months. But now I finally have a new video card, and it is pretty sweet. And of course, I've had some weird issues, but that's just inevitable when you install new hardware. This is a curious looking sim. Goss. Alright, let's see if we can go here. One nice sort of side benefit, although from my point of view it's not really a benefit. I had to get a converter, interesting, for the display port. Oh my god, what a freaking fiasco that is. This is weird. It's like an underwater racetrack or something. I can't even figure out what this is. Okay, a bunch of teleporter locations. Duck racing. Oh, that's what this is. It's a duck race course. That's cool. This is definitely different. Never seen anything quite like this in Second Life. Yeah, you got a leaderboard for the ducks. Ugh. Quackstone. Well, that's kind of cool, I guess. I wonder if you like win prizes. But yeah, anyway, the new video card, it has one HDMI port and 3 display ports. Alright, I'm gonna go to the cafe. If I can. Ugh, why does it keep rezzing me like at the bottom of stuff? What a weirdly dysfunctional teleport system. Okay, I'm gonna try that again. I don't know if that's just my avatar or what. Okay, there I actually teleported onto a surface instead of just into thin air. But anyway, like, ugh, Jesus Christ, hooker heels. DisplayPort is ridiculous. There was already a DisplayPort and it worked just fine, and it was called HDMI. And then it's like every time they release a new standard, or not even standard, just a new piece of hardware, it's like the next version, they have to reinvent the wheel and create a new interface for it, like a video port, so they can like sort of force you to, not force, but like compel you to buy a new monitor, essentially, is kind of my interpretation. And I think, you know, it's really effective, because even I was like considering it. I was like, should I upgrade to a 4K monitor with a DisplayPort interface? Like, I was actually considering it, even though I have two perfectly good 1920 by 1200 displays that are far more than adequate for my needs. I sure as hell don't need a 4K display. But it's like they have DVI ports. Like, that's the only interface they have. So, in other words, if I want to hook up my monitors to a new video card that has nothing but display ports and one HDMI, I need to use adapters. There's no way around it. And here's the really ironic and kind of hilarious thing. I'm just kind of like, my mind is blown by this sim that it's like, just so like, it's a capitalist utopia. Oh hey, no way, I wear these in real life. Crocs, of course they're called. These are very clearly just rip-offs. Let's see if, let's just try this. I'm gonna check out the demonstration here. God, why doesn't it sort these by date? So I don't even know if they're in here. Demo. No, that's not it. Objects, maybe. No, not in there. Is there a way to sort? No. Oh, here they are. God, they're like their own folder. Okay. Second Life, Linden Labs tried really hard to make a Jesus Christ, this is so complicated. It's gotta like size them to my feet and stuff. Yeah. This is so not worth the effort. But yeah, a long time ago, Linden Labs tried to like streamline everything. Mango, your butt is right on my mouse hand, and I don't want that. Thanks, though. They tried to streamline the commerce experience in Second Life, you know, and they did a great job with Marketplace. So that was a huge sea change for Second Life. The sim is actually kind of boring the hell out of me. Sorry, but yeah, if you guys want to see this capitalist utopia here where you can buy cool shoes, there you go. But I'm kind of looking for the more exotic stuff. Sorry for my like incoherency today. I'm just totally scatterbrained. Had kind of a stressful morning and then a stressful afternoon, and then when I got home and I was like starting up my computer, I had to troubleshoot a bunch of new video card related problems. But yeah, the bottom line of what I was talking about earlier with the DisplayPort is that the adapter that I'm using that basically allows me to hook up a DVI monitor to a DisplayPort, it's either defective or it has some kind of a problem where it prevents my video card and my computer from recognizing the monitor that is hooked up, so I can't display the video output in the native resolution of the monitor, which is a bizarre and kind of esoteric 16:10 instead of 16:9 aspect ratio. So instead of 1920 by 1080, which is pretty like standard HD, right? It's 1920 by 1200, so it distorts the visuals a little for me on my end. But the good news is that on your end, the viewer, now you're watching my stream in 1080p, like standard HD. So that's good news for. What is this? Dreamworld Falcon. Okay, I gotta check this out if I can. Damn, no access. That's a shame. Looked so cool. Such a weird checkerboard sim layout there. I can only imagine what's going on the ground. Yeah, so this is the first time I've actually been streaming with the correct aspect ratio, or at least the aspect ratio that YouTube wants me to stream at. Ruby Ridge. Let's try this. Damn, Toy's just getting shut down today. Whoops. Yeah, but DisplayPort, it's just ludicrous. Like, there was absolutely no need for DisplayPort to be invented. None whatsoever. We could still be using HDMI. And that's what I was trying to say. The funniest thing is, like, these adapters, where you take something like HDMI and convert it to DisplayPort, or DisplayPort to HDMI, or VGA to DisplayPort, or HDMI to DVI. Like, all of these adapters, they don't require any circuitry in between the input and the output. They're just a straight up pin out, like where you're connecting the contacts of one standard to the contacts of another standard, because it's like the same data basically, with a few minor exceptions. Alright, I'm going to try this Bella Bonaire. Yeah, I actually was able to go here. Alright. Looking good so far. Yeah, so it's, in other words, the physical interface, this entirely new format that they created, is completely meaningless. It has absolutely no functional, physical advantages or reason to exist over the previous standard. And like, I mean, it's so old, so backwards compatible that you can take a VGA port and convert it to DisplayPort and vice versa. So it's like we're basically using the same technology for displays in terms of the physical interface that we were using in the like late 70s, early 80s. I'm not sure exactly when VGA came out, probably in the 80s, but it's been around forever. So like, why do you keep making a new physical interface? There's absolutely no reason for that whatsoever. Yeah, and I will say, okay, everything I just said, one exception to that. One exception in the modern era that I can think of. Only one, and that is USB Type-C. And why do I say that? Because finally those jerks at the IEEE or whatever, the electronic standard foundation that comes up with all these interface standards, they realized that yes, USB, as awesome as it is, basically probably the greatest interface to ever be designed in modern computing, had one huge flaw, and everybody knows what that flaw is. Everybody's experienced it at one time or another. So this is cool. It's like an art gallery with some really like psychedelic kind of art. So yeah, when you plug a USB port in, like a traditional one, like 2.0 I think is, or Type A, Type B. It has two orientations because it's got a little slab of plastic in there. You know what I'm talking about. So like if you try to plug it in and you've got it turned around the wrong direction, it'll jam up and you gotta flip it around and put it back in to get it to go. And that's the funny thing is there's even like jokes about this where basically it's like on the third try you get it right, because the first time you try to plug it in, it's in the right direction, but you are not sure if it's in the right direction. So the physical interface kind of like, if there's any friction at all, you're like, oh no, I have it the wrong way. And then you flip it around to the wrong direction and you try a little bit harder, and then you realize, oh, I had it right the first time, but I screwed it up and flipped it around when I should have just been a little more focusy. This is really cool right here. And so it's only on the third try where you finally know which direction is the right way and you flip it around that you finally get the USB jack to go into the little port, right? So the engineers, they could have done this like 30 or 40 years ago. They could have created a symmetrical interface, but they didn't because they were idiots. But they finally did it, and so USB Type-C, fully symmetrical. You just slam it in there any old direction. You never have to think twice about it. And because it's got contacts on both sides that are identical, and the interface is actually smart enough to know the difference, and just choose the right channel for the data and power and stuff, that you don't have to worry anymore. Like, that's how it should have been all along. However, you know how engineers can be. They are very specialized and short-sighted. I mean, really, it's amazing how well USB 1.0 or 2.0 has worked. Like, it's miraculous, really, how incredible it is. I mean, I use it all the time in my electronics projects. They even picked a good voltage. Although the higher voltages, higher wattages with the USB Type-C are much nicer because you can power all kinds of things like miniature displays and speakers, and like pretty much USB is just evolving into what it should have been from the very beginning. You kind of have to wonder if it's all about like planned obsolescence and like, do they actually map this stuff out and they're like, next release we're gonna introduce bidirectionality, or we're gonna up the voltage by or up the wattage by a factor of 2 so that we can introduce a whole bunch of new devices, and like they're just kind of like rationing it out. Because you have to think, like, if you're an electronics engineer, which is no easy feat, you literally have to go to school for like probably a decade. I mean, you're practically a doctor when you're an electric engineer. You're like a doctor for electrons and electronic devices. It's no joke. And if you've put that much time and effort into learning how to become an electronic engineer. I saw there's a cool little like fairies, mermaid fairy thing. It's a mermaid fairy. I don't even know what to say. Tinkerbell there. The hell are they standing on? I guess these are just little pedestals. Evolving digital pets, interesting. So I guess these things like change over time or something. It's nice that they have a little fairy castle to hang out in. So yeah, like if you're an electronics engineer, you gotta be pretty smart. And you gotta be pretty like entrenched in the industry, and you're gonna be using all this stuff. Like, I mean, it's like you gotta wonder, like, do these engineers ever actually use their own products? Because, like, if I was an engineer and I used a USB port, the first thing that would pop into my head is, like, how the hell can I design this so that you don't have to worry about the orientation of the plug? I mean, that's just common sense, right? I mean, it doesn't take a degree to understand the basic physics and frustration. I mean, how many engineers are going to be like, oh, this is good enough? Like, that's not how engineers think. Not at all. They're like, this seemed good enough, but there's 101 ways that I can make this a million times better. That's how engineers think. That's the engineer mentality. So it just kind of makes me wonder. I mean, I think it probably makes a lot of people wonder, but it's like, it seems like a conspiracy. Like, they have to be planning this out. There's no way. I mean, they have to actively be resisting the urge to innovate and make these standards much better than they are. And if not, the only alternative that I can think of is just, there's a sort of inherent mediocrity that arises from committee leadership and committee creativity. So, I mean, that's the other alternative. I guess this is basically a shop too. I mean, it had some cool areas, and there's another zone over there. I kind of want to go over there and see what's going on over there. So I've seen everything on this side of the sim. It's nice they didn't turn flying off. Wait a second. Okay, looks like there's no natural way through there, so I'm just gonna have to fly over. So yeah, that's the only other like logical explanation I can think of, like to suppress the natural instincts and inclinations of engineers to make things better. The only thing that would stop that would be like a committee basically choosing the direction of how to produce things, which is plausible because you know all these like organizations, the IEEE, they're very committee centric. It's all about like group leadership and whatnot, which is like honestly the only way to get things done in the modern world, because you need like thousands, if not millions, of people around the world working together in order to create these standards and get them established and then adopted by millions of industrial nodes that then put them into production and make them ubiquitous. I mean, I remember when the original USB first came out, there was skepticism, there was some controversy. It took a while for it to like gain traction, but then inevitably people realized how useful it was and how like more or less foolproof it was, aside from that one single major glaring flaw, and then it just caught on really fast from that point forward. And nowadays it's like you go into any, even like gas stations or whatever, have USB peripherals. That's a really nice plant. The pot really is the standout piece, and the little stand, really nice work on that. Every little rivet is articulated. Really good job on the wheels and the boards. Hey, IBI is rising in the ranks pretty soon. Gonna be right up there with Apple Fall. And I hope this choppiness isn't because of the new video card. I'm not sure. I kind of tweaked the settings a little, so it's... Oh, look at that crate. And that's not a texture either. That's geometry. That's pretty cool. Plastic lattice container, just like a milk crate basically. So yeah, it's super complicated. That's pretty rad. That doily is a nice touch. It's like a smoothie booth basically. Oh, mange. I can't see like half my screen right now because my cat is like right in front of it. Alright, boy, come on, down you go. Yeah, so I'm gonna copy and paste the SL URL for this location as well. It's a really nice building build. It's very detailed. Yeah, I wanted to look at these chairs in here. These are so popular. You see them everywhere nowadays. This is like a slight variation on the ones that I'm familiar with though. Like with this seat kind of in the middle here. But I really like these wall panels that look kind of like trees. Can't tell if this is gonna, oh yeah, it just hasn't fully rezzed yet. It's a neat little artifact. Very cool interior there in that building. Now it looks like there's a residence upstairs or like a yoga studio or something. It's a neat basket lamp. Ah, apple fall. Dun dun. What's this? Oh, an incense burner, that's cool. It'd be neat if there was like a little particle effect of a stream of smoke coming up from that. Actually, maybe you can turn it on, you just have to click on it. You never know what's going to be scripted or what isn't. I think there's a way in the viewer to actually see if stuff is scripted or not. But it's been a long time since I had to mess around with that level of technical modifications. All those yoga mats. Someone really picked the decor very well, put everything together with a lot of skill. I'm really impressed. Like this whole area just seems super pulled together with a much higher level of composition than you usually see in Second Life. And every one of these buildings is just beautiful. I really want to see who made these buildings. Roost Homes. I wonder if, yeah, it looks like Roost made all these, damn. Yeah, Roost Homes. I've never heard of that person before, but man, they do fantastic work. Just so that even a cursory examination, I'm just really amazed. Some arcade games in here. It's a cool neon thing. Huh, Cards Against Humanity. I doubt that's licensed. Somebody like probably ripped it off. There's so much stuff like that in Second Life though. Like it's an intellectual property free-for-all. I mean, the internet's already pretty free and loose, but Second Life in particular is just, it's the real deal. Oh, this is a really nice bar. Look at those details. Oh wow, they even have the like transformer controller for the neon tubing. That's pretty awesome. I'm glad I found a sim that's full of stuff that's worth looking at. Let's see, does it have a VGA port? And that's got a DVI port. There's USB. So ubiquitous, it's even in virtual objects in a game. Oh, this is pretty cool. Wow, there's birds inside too. Oh, wow. That's so cool. I'm inside the cage. Imagine if you could do this in real life. God damn, what I wouldn't give to have like a psychic camera like this that you could just go into any structure and just think of like the medical applications, being able to like go inside a human body and like look around. That would be some super science. They could do that all with like nano drones. Like that's not even super advanced technology. Reminds me of that movie that came out during like the 60s or 70s. Fantastic Voyage or whatever. Is that parsley? Looks like parsley. I planted parsley today in the garden. Ooh, sprouts. Oh wow, this is cool. I've never seen anything like this in Second Life. It's like a cracked flower pot that then has like little seeds sprouting. That's awesome. This is cool too. I like this galvanized corrugated pot. Cake tin planter. Neat. Still not rezzing though. Not fully rezzed. Or these coral. That looks like photogrammy for sure. Definitely a 3D scan of a real object. I've always thought that you could, if you were like, if you had the facilities and you were like, had your workflow like perfectly figured out, you could make so much money in Second Life just doing photogrammy and having a marketplace. But photogrammy is like really advanced. 3D scanning of objects is definitely a next level skill. Not because anybody can't 3D scan. The process of 3D scanning itself is actually really simple and straightforward, and that's something anybody could do. But then the optimization is the hard part, because 3D scan models are notoriously messy and just full of artifacts and loose polygons and non-manifold meshes. It's just it's a nightmare. And I mean, a lot of people who are unscrupulous just upload models without doing any sort of optimization or cleanup on them. And of course they have massive poly counts and look like shit, to be honest. Lots of cool props in here. Probably look at that. Every single typewriter key is like, it's awesome. I think there's like so much geometry and textures that my card is kind of choking. I was watching this movie last night from 10 years ago, and this guy is like a stockbroker, like this really heavy roller, and he's trying to get this promotion in his firm. And there's this scene where he is like in this meeting room, like a conference room, and there's a bunch of other stockbrokers in there who are like higher up on the totem pole than him, including his boss. And one of the higher ups like wants to show him this picture, and he brings out one of the original like mini iPods with the screen. Oh my god, it was just like, and he's acting like it's a big deal, you know, like I'm a high roller, look what I've got. I've got this like super sciencey little peripheral thing, and I'm just casually handing it over so you can look at this picture. And I was just like, wow, 10 years, just a single decade, the technology has just made such a massive leap. Oh, look at that articulated LED bulb. That's pretty awesome. Wow, those details, that's just fantastic. The elements are glowing in this one. Oh cool, you can turn them on and off with just a touch. It's pretty fantastic. Wow, there is so much stuff to look at in here. Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, imagine if you took like a modern mobile phone back even 10 years ago, it would have made every other piece of technology that existed at the time just look like a piece of useless novelty trash by comparison. It's like people still buy MP3 players, like they still exist, they're still being produced, when like a phone basically does everything now. I don't know, it was just kind of interesting. I was thinking, oh, this is kind of a nice way to kick off 2020. This sort of like a blast from the past reminder of how far everything has come. Yeah, I've seen this before. So we got some empty shops here. So yeah, USB Type-C, quantum leap in terms of interface technology. Most people probably aren't capable conceptually of fully understanding what a big change something that simple is. How many millions, and if you really add it all up, trillions of man hours will be saved thanks to that simple, elegant modification to the design. But here's the kicker. USB Type-C is still just one more step along the way to the ultimate electric interface. Data, power, all that. The next step, of course, is a hermaphroditic interface. This is the final step. But will that even be necessary? Because this is curious. There's cables going to the gear. That wouldn't work. It's supposed to be brake lines, but they're going into the gear. That definitely would not work. Very interesting. Like a beautifully made bicycle, however, it has a serious mechanical flaw. Yeah, I almost feel like I'm getting a worse frame rate than with my old video card, but I don't know if that's just because of preferences or what. I'm going to try to reset to recommended settings. See if that gives me a performance boost. Although there's one thing I can't stand, and that's anti-aliasing. Alright, let's see if that helps any. Seems like marginally better. I can't tell really. Yeah, so a hermaphroditic interface is like symmetry along all axes. And there's no male and female, there's no jack, there's no port. Each interface is both a jack and a port. So that, in other words, you can like connect. Here's the biggest part of the innovation that most people wouldn't even realize. Connecting cables to each other and being able to connect a cable to any type of interface on a computer or a handheld device without having to have a specific gendered cable for that device. Which, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know what that means, even though it's probably sounds really confusing too to some people. But will we ever see a mainstream hermaphroditic interface? I mean, USB type D or E or F? It's possible, I think. I think probably before that happens, though, everything will just be wireless. Wireless power, wireless data. That's a problem that a lot of engineers are trying to crack right now. Wireless power that's safe and you can transmit over a distance. I mean, really, I think it's only a matter of time before they figure out how to do that in a reliable and efficient way. It's a really hard problem to crack, though. Yeah, this has Apple fall written all over it. In fact, I've seen parts of these. Oh, this is an amazing bookcase. It's a nice little detail there. That's beautiful. I like how they gave the transparency of the glass like a little patina and like dust and stuff on it. Loading like gigs of textures in the background. It's a good thing I have a fast internet connection. tea pigs. Gotta catch 'em all, I guess. What are those, cats? I guess, tea cats. Ooh, look at the light coming in through there. Looks like toys for the cat. I gotta look at this though. In case you were wondering, I am clicking on stuff. It's just not reacting. Sometimes kitchens are really complicatedly scripted. Other times they're just pure props. Oh, that's a cool toaster. Man, Dust Bunny, they don't fuck around. Got a lot of builds, and they're all pretty spectacular. That's a cool touch, that crack in the stucco. Farmer's market, huh? Pod coffee machines. Those things are horrible. Although in a virtual world, they don't have a significant carbon footprint, so I guess that's good. We're just wasting a few electrons instead of tons and tons of plastic that ends up in the ocean or landfill. But honestly, they're just a bad design. Oh yeah, I'm getting like a great frame rate out here, so it must have just been the density of objects and all the textures that we're loading. This is an example of like a highly optimized build out here. Like as soon as I go inside, it's just gonna grind to a halt again. This totally feels like a real house. Like, I feel like I'm in somebody's actual house. Not the first time I've experienced that uncanny valley, but it's a little more acute in here than usual. Barovia? Is that a real country? Never heard of it. Let's see. Ravenloft. Guess it's a fictional country. It's kind of cool. Look at this lizard terrarium. Oh, that's awesome. Whoa, the eyes blink. Crazy. Wow. That's a fairly realistic movement. I think that's a rigged model too. It's not like there's a whole bunch of ghosted parts that are then being switched on and off. It's an actual like scripted object. That's pretty incredible. Bearded dragon habitat, core 1, LaCourte. This is like the pinnacle of technology in Second Life right now. If you can do this kind of stuff, you're on the bleeding edge. Oh, those heat lamps are so realistic too. That's awesome. The only thing that's kind of depressingly not awesome in this terrarium is the rock itself compared to the resolution of all the other things in there. Well, I guess the plants are a little fuzzy too, but like the bearded dragon is like twice the resolution, maybe 3 or 4 times the resolution of the rock that he walks on, which is a little incongruous. But still, I mean, I only really talk deeply about builds like that when I'm just utterly amazed at how incredible they are. So like, good work. The hell, clothespins, bath bombs, dish detergent. God, I wish I had a laundry like this in real life. Actually, this whole like bathroom slash laundry room is awesome. Oh, cool. The machine's open. Wow, they have 2 sound effects. One for. Oh, cool. It's got a user menu. Oh no, or does it? Nah, I thought it might actually like start up and work, but it's just open and close. Still, that's pretty incredible. And the fact that they had a sound effect for the the toilet seat opens. Cool. They had a sound effect for the opening and the closing. 2 different sounds. That's a really nice attention to detail. There's like a sort of highly feminine makeup station. Oh, this chair is trippy. They used like layered translucency of multiple sprites to create that fur effect. It doesn't really work perfectly, but it still works good enough. Yeah, I'm like choking up here. I'm trying to navigate, but unfortunately, I hate a little photo studio. I wonder like how many people in Second Life have like virtual offices in Second Life that are identical to their real world virtual offices, cuz like I've my partner watches a bunch of YouTubers who basically are like they kind of do this thing for a living, and I've seen a lot of their like vlogs where they have workspaces that are basically exactly like this, only usually with wider walls. But like, lifestyle blogs or just little like businesses. Oh my god, this Eiffel Tower. Wow. That's awesome. That is super freaking awesome. The filament, oh my god. Every detail. That's one of the things that I absolutely love more than anything about Second Life. It is the 3D artist's wet dream come true. Like the fact that you can just go wild and articulate every single freaking molecule of a real world object dutifully and accurately in Second Life. Like that filament, it's just nuts. Like those are polygons, but it's like you'll never see that in any other type of video game ever, because the cost is so high, the resource cost. But in Second Life, you can. In Second Life, anything is possible. You can defy the laws of physics and optimization. It's a comfy looking bed. I would just curl up in there and take a nap if I was there in real life. This little balcony here. Yeah, I'd say this sim in particular, or this section of the sim in this little environment here, is basically as good an argument as any for Second Life being like a fully legitimate platform for living a virtual life. I mean, it's just a few degrees away from reality, basically. It's like all that was contained just within that one building. Probably like 3 or 4 billion polygons. And maybe like, I don't know, a gigabyte of textures, maybe more. Pretty incredible. But yeah, like when you see a build like that with that level of detail and attention and stuff, you can take Second Life completely seriously. Not only does it compete with everything else out there, but it actually surpasses. Because like I said, there's stuff, 3D assets that you will see in Second Life that just don't exist anywhere else in like an interactive medium. Because you know, it's easy to create renders and stuff of assets that are that high definition, but to actually have them in a virtual world where you can walk around and interact with them and like pretend that you're living in that environment, only in Second Life. And of course, the level of customization, the ability of any user to go into their own virtual world and customize it to their personal preferences and specifications. Also, Second Life specific. So it's kind of the 1-2 punch. On the other hand, you'll see stuff like this. You know, this speech, incredibly unrealistic. I'd say it's like a 2 out of 10 in terms of realism. But that's mainly just because of the scale. Second Life just does not do well with large textures. And the particle system is so old that it really just makes it impossible to create like modern looking effects with like shaders and stuff. I suppose that will be the sort of the next frontier in Second Life after their rigging update. If they get like shader technology in Second Life. It's a pretty bountiful avatar. Looks like she's actually working on the sim. Alright, let's check out the land here. Ariella Marie. And she's the one who owns this sim. So pretty cool. I'm just gonna shout out to her. So yeah, that's it for this edition of Neo Toy Story Explores Second Life. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and definitely check out the sim. I think I already put the SL URL in the chat, but I'm gonna do it again just in case. Anyway, yeah. Catch you all later.